Good morning, I'm Councillor Nikki Brennan and I will be chairing this hearing of the Subcommittee C of the Licensing and Public Protection Committee of Birmingham City Council. Before we start, can I ask you all to please mute your microphone for the moment in order to improve the sound quality whilst I outline the procedure. Can you also please turn off your cameras with the exception of the committee members unless you are the person speaking. This is to reduce bandwidth. Committee members will have their cameras switched on through the hearing. Could everyone attending today's meeting please put their mobile phones onto silent and ensure that they are situated in a room or environment which is free from distractions or unnecessary noises. Thank you for that. I am speaking slowly and clearly so everyone can follow. It is vitally important, for what I hope are obvious reasons, that those attending the meeting and making representations are able to hear me and members of the subcommittee and officers. Any distractions brought to my attention could result in the meeting being suspended temporarily or to another date and time under regulations for these type of meetings. I can also confirm that this is a public meeting and is therefore being live streamed on the City Council's website in order that the general public can view it. Members are reminded that they must declare any relevant pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests arising from any business to be discussed at this meeting. If a disclosable pecuniary interest is declared, a member must not speak or take part in that agenda item. Any declarations will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Can I welcome you to this hearing of an application for an expedited review in the respect of the licence for Super Choice News, 939 Walsall Road, Great Bar, Birmingham, B42 1TN. I will begin with some introductions. I am Councillor Nikki Brennan and I am chairing this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. With me are other members of the subcommittee, Councillor Mary Locke.
Good morning, Chair.
And Councillor Mike Ward.
Good morning.
Also present in the meeting are the following officers. Licensing Officer David Kennedy.
Good morning, Chair.
Committee Manager Katie Townshend.
Good morning, Chair.
Committee Lawyer Joanne Swempillai.
Good morning, Chair.
Could I ask all parties to identify themselves, please? Firstly, starting with the applicant trading standards.
Naseem Shamas, Enforcement Officer, Trading Standards.
Next, those making representations, West Midlands Police.
Good morning, Chair. Chris Jones, West Midlands Police Central Licensing Team.
And next, the licensing holder or their representative. Do we have anybody from that?
Chair, the licence holder has notified that they do not consider a hearing necessary and that they won't be participating in this morning's hearing. A copy of that notification is at Appendix 3 of the published report.
Thank you for that information. Could I ask if any persons making representations wishes to withdraw their representation at this stage of the hearing?
Chair, no from West Midlands Police.
Thank you. I will assume that all parties have read and understood the Licensing Committee procedural rules sent out with the notice of today's hearing. Please note that given the nature of today's proceedings, I may at my discretion amend the procedural rules to reflect the fact that this meeting is taking place online, but wish to assure you all that any such amendments will not impact on the parties' right to a fair hearing. We will be using the Microsoft chat function in Microsoft Teams to communicate. One of the icons on your toolbar is a speech bubble. Click the speech bubble to go onto the chat. If you do not have access to the chat function for any reason, please use the raise a hand function to indicate you wish to speak. This button is usually fourth from the right on the toolbar. You can also, of course, indicate verbally that you wish to speak at the appropriate time. Can you all now confirm that you have access to the chat facility by typing your own name now, and officers will also type their job title. The meeting will not proceed until you have done so. Please keep this chat column open for the entire duration of the meeting in order that everyone can follow the messages being posted in the chat. With the exception of subcommittee members, please keep your camera off unless you are the person speaking. If there are any problems with bandwidth which cause difficulties with the sound, I may at my discretion ask everyone to turn their cameras off in order that the meeting can proceed with everyone being able to hear and be heard. Does anyone wish to make any preliminary points at this stage? If so, please indicate that you wish to raise a point by typing speak into the chat function or the raise a hand function now. Okay. Thank you for that. I'll now briefly outline the procedure which we will be following at today's hearing. Firstly, the licensing officer, David Kennedy, will present the report. The applicant will then be asked to present their case. We are asking if this could be kept to approximately 20 minutes. Those making representations will then be invited to make their case. Again, approximately 20 minutes will be allowed for this part of the hearing. We would then let the licensing holder or their representative make their case, however they have not attended. Can I ask that all parties speak as slowly and clearly as they possibly can, because the officers are taking notes by hand for the minutes, and the meeting is also being live streamed on the City Council's website. If at any point it is someone else's turn to speak, please mute your microphone and use the chat function to communicate if necessary. Please note that members of the subcommittee will be able to ask questions at any stage, but will try to do so at the conclusion of each presentation. Cross-examination by the applicant and those making representations will not be permitted unless the members consider it appropriate. Where questions are raised by the members of the subcommittee or by those present, they must signify this by using the chat facility set out on the right-hand side of the screen you are viewing this meeting on. The meeting manager will alert me if I do not notice messages in the chat, and I will determine verbally or in writing on the chat facility the order in which questions will be dealt with. So at any point in the meeting you wish to speak, please type the word speak into the chat function and the meeting manager will assure that we come to you at the appropriate moment. If at any point you cannot hear or are having problems with your internet connection, please use the chat facility to alert the meeting manager. The chair will then ask the person speaking to repeat what they said. It is therefore important that you use the chat function as soon as you possibly can, and when you're unable to hear the person speaking. It may be that there is problems caused by people still having their microphones and cameras on, which creates interference. So I remind everybody again to please mute their microphone and turn off their cameras unless they are the person speaking. Could I point out that occasionally it may be necessary for a subcommittee to take legal advice. At my discretion, I may ask all parties to wait in the meeting whilst members and the relevant officers withdraw to take legal advice using a separate meeting within Microsoft Teams. We will then return to this meeting and continue. Please note that if any time the live stream being broadcast on the City Council's website fails, I will ask you all to mute your microphones and cameras and to stop speaking until the live stream is restored. If at any point this meeting goes into private session, the meeting manager will pause the live stream. Once the private part of the meeting is over, I will then ask the meeting manager to confirm that the live stream is resumed before we continue. At the conclusion of the meeting, I will invite all parties to make a brief closing submission. And can I stress that no decision will be taken until all the evidence has been heard. At the decision-making stage, members and the relevant officers will withdraw from the meeting in order to determine the decision. They will go into a separate Microsoft Teams meeting. In the event that the members need to clarify any points, you will be telephoned by the meeting manager. The members will then make their decision and you will be notified of the decision of the subcommittee within the statutory time limit. So I hope that is reasonably straightforward, and with that I will ask the licensing officer to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. The Chief Inspector of Weights and Measures applied on the 15th of November 2021 for a review of the premises licence under Section 51 of the Licensing Act 2003 for Super Choice News 939 Walsall Road, Great Bar, Birmingham, B42 1TN. The purpose of the report before the committee today is to consider the review application and the representations received and to determine the matter. The representation from West Midlands Police is attached to Appendix 1. West Midlands Police have also submitted supporting documents in the form of a witness statement from Chris Jones, which is attached to pages 23 to 25 of the published agenda pack. The review application is attached at Appendix 2. The premises licence holder, Mohammed Sujad, has submitted an email stating that he does not think a review hearing is necessary and does not intend to participate. He also expands as to the mitigation reasons for the sale, a copy of which is attached at Appendix 3. The current premises licence is attached at Appendix 4 and site location plans at Appendix 5. When carrying out its licensing functions, a licensing authority must have regard to Birmingham City Council's statement of licensing policy and the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Act. The licensing authority is required to take such steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives. The options available to the committee today are to modify the conditions of licence, exclude a licensable activity from the scope of the licence, remove the designated premises supervisor, suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months, revoke the licence, or take no action. Where the authority takes a step to modify conditions or exclude a licensable activity, it may provide that the modification or exclusion is to have effect for only such period not exceeding 3 months as it may specify. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, David. Could I ask Trading Standards to make their presentation now, please?
Okay, so I'll go through the grounds for the review. So on the 24th of May 2021, Trading Standards Enforcement Officer Paul Elson visited the premises of Super Choice News due to an anonymous complaint received that 2 15-year-old girls had purchased alcohol from there. The licence holder was not present in the shop at the time, and the person who was behind the till appeared not to understand English. Officer Elson then spoke to Mohammed Sajjad, the licence holder, on the phone whilst in the shop. He explained that a complaint had been received and explained the law on underage sales and reminded him that the refusal register must be maintained and that sales should be challenged. Officer Elson provided an advisory pack for tobacco and alcohol on age-restricted products and left a trader notice for the licence holder. Then on the 16th of October 2021, Trading Standards carried out a test purchase operation and visited Super Choice. A 15-year-old female volunteer took part in the test purchase of alcohol. On the 16th of October 2021 at around 11:22 hours, Officer Geary Warmington carried out a risk assessment of Super Choice News 939 Walsall Road, Birmingham B42 1TN. On entry, he observed an Asian woman behind the till area who was on her mobile phone. He observed further that the woman was still on her phone when he left the premise. At around 11:24 hours, Officer Naseem Shamas went into the shop and was followed shortly after by the volunteer. Officer Shamas observed a lady was behind the till area on her mobile phone. The 15-year-old volunteer was sold a bottle of 4% alcohol WKD drink for £3 and then left the shop, followed by Officer Shamas. Officer Shamas observed the lady behind the till area was still on her mobile phone. The volunteer handed the bottle to Officer Warmington. The officers and volunteers returned to their vehicles. Officer Warmington placed the bottle in an evidence bag. Then Officer Shamas and Enforcement Officer Warmington went back into the shop at around 11:40 hours and spoke to the Asian woman who is behind the till area. Officer Warmington advised the woman that alcohol had been sold to a person under the age of 18 and that it was an offence under the Licensing Act 2003 and that the facts would be reported. Officer Shamas asked the lady for the refusals register. It appeared she did not know what it was. She stated her husband deals with the paperwork. The woman could not speak English fluently. The woman called the premise licence holder and Officer Warmington had a conversation advising that alcohol was sold to an underage person and a notice would be left for him and he must give a recording of the CCTV footage as outlined in the trader notice. The woman gave her name as Asma Nosheen. Asma Nosheen was given a trader notice number 14168, which she signed and was given a copy to hand to the premise licence holder of the shop. The officers then left the premises at around 12 midday. Thank you, Chair. That's the conclusion of my review.
Thank you. I'll now go to questions from members. Councillor Locke, do you have any questions?
Just one. I take it was the test purchase. But did the 15-year-old have a mask?
Yes, she did have a mask on.
What type of mask was it? Because some of them are clear, some of them are...
It was a dark cloth mask.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I'll just double check the photo. Just if you just bear with me, I've got the photo. Right, okay. It was like a paper mask, a blue one, like the sort of medical masks. So it wasn't clear.
Just to follow up from that question from Councillor Locke,
Yes.
being somebody that is still lucky enough to get ID'd, what would be the protocol with a mask? Would we still ask people to remove their mask so that they can see their face when they're ID'd? Wouldn't that be something that would happen?
Yes, I think they should. The responsible retailer should.
So, responsible retailer would ask somebody to remove their mask so they could see their face.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Locke, do you have any other questions?
No more questions.
Councillor Ward, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you, Chair.
Okay. I have no questions either. Now we've clarified the mask situation, so we'll now move on to a presentation from West Midlands Police.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, councillors. This review was submitted by Trading Standards and supported by West Midlands Police after they carried out a test purchase operation where a 15-year-old child was able to purchase alcohol from his premises on the 16th of October 2021. Councillors, this child was a volunteer for Trading Standards. On previous operations I have attended with Trading Standards, they have used children that look their age and are not made up to look 18. So this child would have looked 15 years old, either with or without a mask. The child was able to purchase a bottle of WKD without question from a member of staff who was stood behind the till. Councillors, the member of staff seemed so uninterested in the purchase that we've been told that she remained on a mobile phone throughout and even prior when Trading Standards was in the premises. Once the purchase had taken place, Trading Standards officers spoke with the member and staff and informed them that they had witnessed her sell alcohol to an underage person. The officers from Trading Standards asked to look at the refusals book. She stated that she didn't know where he was and that her husband had dealt with the paperwork. Councillors will go back to that point a little bit later, that her husband dealt with the paperwork. The member of staff then phoned the DPS, who is also the premises licence holders, and obviously Trading Standards spoke to him on the phone. Previous to this failed test purchase, councillors, Trading Standards had a complaint that 2 other 15-year-old girls had been able to purchase alcohol from this premises. Trading Standards officers visited on the 24th of May after the complaint, and on this occasion, the DPS and premises licence holder again was not present at the premises, and just one member of staff left in charge. Officers again spoke to him on the phone, advised him of the complaint, left him paperwork and explained the law around underage sales, and reminded him that a refusals register should be kept. Councillors, there were only 5 months between the initial Trading Standards visit in May, where the law regarding sales and all the information to help the premises trade legally was left before this failed test purchase. Councillors also noted that the advice given by Trading Standards in May has been seemingly ignored by the premises licence holder, with striking similarities between the complaint received, the state of the premises on the advisory visit, and the failed test purchase. Councillor, the age of the children that alcohol was sold for the failed test purchase and the complaint is 15. On both occasions where Trading Standards have visited, the DPS and premises licence holder was not on site, and there was a sole member of staff left in charge. And the lack of a refusals book or knowledge of any such book by the staff that were left in charge. Councillors, these premises have a number of operating conditions attached to their licence, which include all staff at the premises will be trained with regard to the Licensing Act 2003 and the sale of alcohol. And one of the other conditions is the premises shall adopt a Challenge 21 policy. These conditions are obviously imposed onto the licence to protect children and the vulnerable. Obviously, the premises have breached the Challenge 21 policy, as a 15-year-old girl was able to purchase alcohol without question. The other condition of staff training regarding the Licensing Act has either not happened or has been totally ineffective and inadequate. The member of staff involved, councillors, couldn't even find the refusals register, and she didn't appear to understand what a refusals register was, saying, if you remember, that her husband dealt with the paperwork. Councillors, if she had had training regarding the policy, she would know what the refusals book was, when it should be used, and where it was to be able to use the book. Councillors, I've looked on the website of the various websites of the effects on children of alcohol, and the effects can be quite devastating, with the NHS online stating that alcohol use during teenage years is related to a wide range of health and social problems, including drinking alcohol can damage a child's health even if they're 15 or older. It can affect the normal development of vital organs and functions, including brain, liver, bones and hormones. Beginning to drink before the age of 14 is associated with increased health risks, including alcohol-related injuries, involvement in violence and suicidal thoughts and attempts. Drinking at an early age is associated with risky behaviour, such as violence, having more sexual partners, pregnancy, using drugs, employment problems and drink driving. That's from the NHS website. The NARDOs state that young people who use alcohol are increased risk of missing school, poor health, committing crime and being sexually exploited. Obviously, councillors, the effects of alcohol on young people can be devastating and also put extra increase on already stressed resources such as the NHS and police. Councillors, the sale of alcohol to children can only be financially led and profit orientated. Seemingly, the possible consequences of such acts are being of no concern to the premises licence holder as money going into the till. The sale of alcohol to children would appear the norm at these premises, as a member of staff who sold a bottle of the WKD to the child didn't even bother coming off the phone to challenge a 15-year-old girl. Councillors, remembering this was a volunteer, a child the trading standards took with them, she would have looked their age. Purchasing WKD, which is obviously a known favourite drink for younger drinkers. Councillors, at this point, unless you have any further questions, that finishes my presentation.
I'll just go to questions from members. So, Councillor Ward, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions. Thank you, Chair.
And Councillor Lott, do you have any questions?
Just one, it's just clarification. Chris, were there any records at all of any staff training at all?
Councillors, I didn't visit the premises. I have no knowledge of whether there are any records or not.
Do you want to see if trading standards can answer that question, Councillor Lott?
Yes, please.
I didn't ask for the training records because the licence holder wasn't there, but I did ask for the refusals register.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Chair.
So this was the third time that this premises would have served alcohol to an underage drinker.
Chair, trading standards, I believe, received intel in May or before May that they had sold alcohol to two 15-year-old girls. They visited the premises on the back of that intel on the 24th of May, where again one sole member of staff was left in charge, and trading standards officers spoke to the DPS, who's also the premises licence holder, on the phone, explaining the law around underage sales, and also left him some paperwork regarding that, along with a trader's notice. Following that visit, they then carried out the test purchase on the 16th of October, which was obviously the failed test purchase, and why we're here today.
Okay. I've got no further questions, so if you'd like to move on to your closing submission.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chair. West Midlands Police have no confidence in the management of these premises to promote the licensing objectives, especially the protection of children from harm, prevention of crime and disorder, and public safety. The premises had received an advisory visit from Trading Standards only 5 months prior to this underage sale, and this advisory visit was again for alleged sale of alcohol to children, which indicates the selling of alcohol to children at these premises is an ongoing issue. This strengthens West Midlands Police stance of having no confidence in the management and their ability or desire to promote the licensing objectives. The management of this premises have put profit and money over their legal, moral and social responsibilities of selling alcohol. West Midlands Police would agree with Trading Standards' recommendation that the premises licence should be revoked from this premises. Thank you, Councillors. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Trading Standards, would you like to make your closing submission?
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just sum up that a sale of alcohol took place on the 16th of October 2021, and advice had been given on the 24th of May 2021. So the licence holder was aware of the problems, and I will also say that no refusals register was shown to me when I asked for it on the 16th of October 2021, and also no CCTV coverage was supplied, despite me asking for that to be supplied on a number of occasions. And that's all I've got. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. The subcommittee will now ask all parties to leave the Microsoft Teams meeting, and the members, the committee lawyer and the committee manager will go into private session while the subcommittee makes its decision. You'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee before the end of the statutory time limit. So thank you all for attending this morning and for your time. You're now free to leave the meeting.